The following podcast is a next level production.
Stephen? Mark? Stephen! Mark! How is this possible?
I don't know.
What's the last thing that you remember? Harrow shot us. Yes! Yes, exactly. Exactly. All right, we gotta get out of here. Follow me. Come on.
Hey, panelers, welcome back to the show. I'm Mark.
And I'm Steve.
And this is going to be a spoiler-full podcast about Moon Knight episodes 3 and 4. And I'm sorry if we're a little late with 3, but we had some recording time issues. Hopefully Craig could come back. We're hoping to get Craig Lagans back just to help out. But right now we're going to start off with Moon Knight episode 3, The Friendly Type. And the synopsis for that, Steve?
Yeah, with Mark in the forefront and Harrow ahead, Mark and Layla navigate Cairo for intel.
Very short and sweet.
Yeah.
Which is very true. Overall thoughts? What were your thoughts?
I hate to say, I was not super impressed with this one. I watched it 3 times last week, and I don't know. I mean, I think by the 3rd time I grew to appreciate it more, but it was just, I don't know. It's something didn't click with me for it. I mean, I liked the interactions we got between the different gods, and I'm sure we'll talk about that whole summit thing. And now that we've already seen the next episode, and I like kind of what they did setting up this next episode. Episode 4 when we get to that. So yeah, I mean, overall, I guess it was fine.
Actually, I'm pretty much the opposite. I actually did enjoy it. A lot of it had to do with the action within it towards the end. And I really liked what they did with the character, as well as the fact that, we have a character here that's not going to be there anymore, unfortunately, because the actor had passed away. And, I'm wondering how they're going to resolve that, if that character was supposed to come back, or if they do come back at the very end, or if it was just a one-off. But they did have a memoriam for the actor at the very end, which I was very appreciative. I did enjoy it because it kind of fueled a little bit more with Layla and Mark. It kind of summed up a lot of things that we didn't know about Mark and her relationship. So I really enjoyed it for that aspect. And there's a lot of more Egyptian culture within it too, which I do enjoy. But yeah, it was one of the more enjoyable ones for me. Obviously not for you, but it's fine. It works that way in the sense that, you have two people that you have two different, points of opinion. And I'm sure the next one you probably enjoyed.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Episode 4 was bonkers, So I can't wait to talk about that one and see, kind of where we head in that kind of conversation. So,
yeah. So with that, we should get into our top points or our top 5s.
Did you do that?
Huh? Oh, yeah, it's for my father. He would have loved to be here.
Oh, yeah? Big history buff, is he?
Oh, so much worse. Archaeologist on a mission.
Oh, God.
And to him it was a dream worth dying for. And he did.
I'm so sorry.
Oh, yeah. No, it's fine. Really.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Well,
Happens.
I bet that he'd be positively beaming right now, seeing you standing in the proof of it.
Yeah, I think so. Well, it's not such a bad way to go, is it? Let's find out.
Yeah. Yeah, let's find out.
So, Steve, do you want to go first?
Absolutely. I just kind of what we kind of talked about and what I think Kirk on TV Podcast Industries has talked about in this episode 3. I think we got a confirmation that there is at least one more identity in there, and this is a theory that I had actually when I was watching the episode, is that maybe Khonshu was able to take over the body in those instances. Because, he did try to he was in Mark's body when he tried to hit Harrow in that little meeting thing. So we know that he can make the body do.
Yeah, he could actually take over the Avatar. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's possible that there's not actually a third identity, but that it's Khonshu taking over the body. I really wish, we're getting close to the end of this series now we've both already watched episode 4, so we know what takes place in it. But yeah, I really wanted to get some of those cut scenes that we haven't gotten, yes. And maybe they're going to wait until episode 6 and just drop a whole montage of those cut scenes, or maybe we're just not going to get them. I'm not sure, but
an ultimate reveal, maybe you think?
Yeah, something like that.
Like this is what you didn't see, but this is who is actually involved.
Right.
Yeah,
kind of like what the M. Night Shyamalan movies do when they reveal everything to you that you missed throughout the movie, that kind of thing. Maybe they're going to do that in episode 6. I don't know. But yeah. I just love that the fact that we've kind of been talking about it and wondering if there's another, because we know that in the comics, there's at least one more identity that comes out. And I was wrong. I did listen to Podcastica's coverage of Moon Knight when the guy that had more comic knowledge, that Crowley wasn't an identity of Mark's. Crowley was actually just an informant that he used, and that the other identity was the taxi driver.
Jake Lotley. Guy. That's what everybody is. That seems to be the given thing that everybody thinks online right now, as far as who the third, if it is a third personality within that body. Because within the comics, Jake Lotley was a taxi driver, but honestly, was he really an assassin that could actually do those things? That's a good question.
They could do the same thing they did with Stephen Grant. It could be a completely different character with just the same name.
Correct.
You know, so. But yeah, that's all. My first kind of is just this discussion of this third identity, or whether there is a third identity or not. I hope we get some more of that in the last 2 episodes. Man, I can't believe it's almost over.
Yeah, well, they're trying to nip this in the bud, so that way they could actually involve Moon Knight within, I guess, the MCU directly, so that way Oscar Isaac is not stuck to an actual TV series. I would have to go with mine. My first point would be the fight scene in the beginning with Mark and the Mercs on the rooftop. How Stephen pleads with Mark to stop. It's like as if Stephen is the conscience of Mark trying to do good, instead of being Mark, who is more, kind of like a Merc himself, an assassin, and then take out these guys. But then we get Mark in the cab, and, the chase continues with the Mercs at that point, because he takes hold of the body again. Then wakes up mid-killing a man, as we see, and Mark asks Stephen what he had done. They both don't know what had happened, and I really thought, I was like, wow, this is really stretching it, but at least, like I said, everybody thought it was Jake Lotley. I was thinking it was something else too, but I wonder if they actually do impose that character into the whole Moon Knight thing. Would they give it a different costume, that personality, a different costume? Because we already have Mr. Knight with Steven, and we have Moon Knight with Mark. What would that costume be? Ultimate?
Yeah, it'd be kind of cool to see them just, I think we talked about this in the last time we talked about, if the show can just make up its own kind of identity that's completely separate from what the comics have. So this was my next one too, was the fight on the rooftop and the jumping in and out of the different identities. I thought was great. I'm totally with you that the way they work these reflections is so great, and it's just the show keeps that kind of dark humor in that when the guy's like licking his blade to try to intimidate Mark, and Mark just kind of punches him with the thing, is just hilarious, and he does, we get him, he zones out, kills one of the guys, because then when he wakes up in the cab, there's only 2 of them that come out of that building. And then when he flashes again, like you said, he's mid killing the third guy, and the kid that poor kid, he was trying to, like, I really think Mark didn't want to kill that kid.
No, he didn't.
He didn't want to. Steven didn't want to. It was Khonshu who told him, to take him to the edge of the cliff and question him. And then the kid pulls out his own knife and kills himself, saying, praise Amet. And
he just cuts his, like, what was it?
The scarf or whatever he was wearing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And it was sad. It was sad and tragic. And just to realize that, we're getting we're finding out more, and even in episode 4, we get some more of Mark's character in this episode, and that we see, like you said, both of them deny doing any of the killing. And so it makes me wonder again about that third one. But yeah, I just that fight on the rooftop and him jumping from rooftop to rooftop, and that kind of parkour kind of thing is always been a cool visual kind of chase scene and stuff. But again, I don't know if we're going to get the cut scenes or not, but I hope we kind of do.
Yeah. Like you were saying, the chase scenes across the rooftop to rooftop, that it reminded me of like Tom Cruise running from rooftop to rooftop for Mission Impossible. And the one thing with the knife scene going into that particular Mark wakes up to, it just reminded me something out of Yellow Jackets, when Shauna, it's like she just realizes that she, cut this guy up like a fillet of fish. And that was the first thing that came to my mind when I saw that. That was pretty funny. But if you guys really want to listen to a podcast about Yellow Jackets, what is it, on HBO Max or Showtime?
Showtime.
Yeah. So they're covering that on House Podcastica on the Podcastica Network. So you can check that out. It's called Yellow Jackets WTF.
So I had the same one for that one. So let's just go right into your number 2
or 4 or whatever.
Or your next one. Yeah. However you want to. I number them 1 through 5. So just.
All right. Next one I would be the meeting of the Ennead in the Pyramid of Giza. So it's pretty funny how, Steven is like, oh, I'm in the Pyramid of Giza, going around loving it, being who he is. It's pretty cool. But with all the avatars present, but their gods are basically taking over their avatar's body within the council meeting. Khonshu makes more trouble, even though he doesn't want to, but you can see his anger amongst them. And we find out that Harrow was an avatar of Khonshu, so that actually was something. So it cemented that it is something real that had happened to Arthur Harrow. And Hathor was a friend of Khonshu, we find out, which is another god, and liked their music. So Khonshu actually liked their music, which I thought was pretty cool. So, and then we see Harrow coming to the council just to defend himself in a sense, because they actually brought him in, and you could see how Khonshu is like crazed about how Harrow is representing and everything. And I don't think Amet was there in Harrow at that point. I think it was,
no. Because she's still in that statue.
In that tomb. Yeah, she's stuck. So, which is what we find at the very end. Obviously, spoilers. But if you watched it, you're listening to this. But that's how they put Khonshu away. And we find something out later on, too, in the next episode of something, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, and I just love that. Again, this is another one of my points as well, is the assembly of the gods. And it was a weird kind of thing, because Khonshu, you can see that, I don't know, maybe Khonshu's unwell as mentally. Well, because it's one of those things where sometimes when you protest too much about something, even though you're in the right and you're speaking the truth, it sounds like you're not, because you're just out of your head. And that's kind of what happened here, is Khonshu is just raving about the fact that Harrow is trying to release Amet and Harrow is just staying so cool and calm. And it's because he's cool and calm that the other gods don't believe Khonshu. He's the one who's kind of, out of his mind, ranting and raving. And Harrow is just kind of, like I said, calmly kind of standing there, not really, not engaging. And then, of course, the fact that Khonshu tries to punch him, and they stop him, and they speak to Mark, and Mark can't. He's not going to lie, apparently, about being unwell. And so Harrow kind of turns the tables on him and makes it look like Mark and Khonshu are the ones trying to release Amet. And when we know that it's Harrow, and I don't understand why these gods don't know. Obviously, they must not be as powerful. I think that's a line in one of the episodes. Is I guess they're not as powerful as we thought they were because they don't remember. You know, they can't figure this out. That what Harrow's doing. I mean, he's in the middle of the desert digging up the grave, you know, the tomb, as we see in the next episode. So yeah, I did love, you know, we're getting more of these last couple of episodes, especially 3 and 4. Well, not 4, I guess 2 and 3. We're getting more of Khonshu as a character, and really episode 3 really fleshed that out. But then, of course, at the end of the episode, he gets imprisoned in the statue and they put him in that wall thing. And that's where we get that great conversation where Harrow says, you know, it's because of your hurt that you formed me into this kind of thing. And so but yeah, that was a great moment. So that's, and I wondered about that when Stephen says, oh, I'm inside the pyramid of Giza, but it might not have actually been, because remember, he said you just open a portal and you go through to some other place.
Exactly.
So I don't know if he was actually
a different dimension. You're thinking. Yeah.
I don't think he was actually inside the pyramid. It was just a door to a portal was open in the pyramid that he walked through. So, but yeah, like I said, I had that same one. So whatever your next one is.
So Mark and Steven working together to get the map where Ahmet's tomb is, when they're in, you know, they go to this party which looks like a Renaissance fair jousting fest thing. Then the unfolding battle with Mark as Moon Knight and Steven as Mr. Knight, all within the action-packed scene, which I love. That was like the big thing that I love, because we got to see more of Moon Knight and more of Mr. Knight, as it were, with Steven at the hand. So that was a lot of spears stuck in both of them at that point. And I just love at that point, you know, the fight choreograph was great, and we got more of Moon Knight in action, which I love. And that's really what I look for within, you know, forward to within these actual movies or shows, is that we get our characters interacting with their powers. And we got that. And that was really what I was looking more forward to. More interesting characteristics of the suit, too. He's bulletproof. We get the quarter moon pieces, which in the comics, they were made of adamantium. So I think these are just a heavier steel blade or something that are just like quarter moons. And Layla's use of her necklace to kill one of the guards as well.
I don't know. I don't know if she killed him, because she just stuck him in the shoulders, and then walked away.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if he's actually dead or not. He could be. It looked like Mark, and you mentioned about the actor who played Gaspar. Right? Was that his name? Or something like that. The black market guy.
Yes.
I think Mark threw a spear at him, and we see him slump over on his horse there at the end. So okay. I think Mark killed him, or, you know, maybe they added that because they knew they wouldn't be able to, I don't know. But yeah, that was a great fight. We, like you said, we see he does this thing with the bullets that I didn't even realize until like the third watch, was that the cape actually absorbed like the bullets.
Yep.
And then when
just
he
like
spun around, when he spun around, he shot the bullets back out at the guys. And I thought that was just a great effect to see that. So
that was a great effect. Yeah.
Yeah. My next one is just real short. It goes kind of back to that Harrow and Mark scene there inside in the God's assembly. Why didn't Mark just tell him that he's got the scarab now? You know, because Harrow said something about you were searching for the scarab. Also, Mark could just as easily have said, well, yeah, but you have the scarab. You actually have it to find her tomb. And I don't think Harrow would have been dumb enough to bring it with him. But you never know. He might have had it on him, and that could have been at least a little bit of proof to Mark's story. But obviously it didn't turn out that way.
Yeah, to add on to that, too, you would think these are gods. They're overseeing everything that Harrow would be doing at that point. Kind of like the Nazis in, you know, Raiders of the Lost Ark, looking for the same thing. They were looking for the Ark of the Covenant. So I'm thinking Mark more of like Indiana Jones. You know, Harrow being more of, what's his name?
Belloc.
Yeah. Belloc.
Yeah.
Belosh.
Yeah.
And, you know, that was the whole thing. And it just doesn't work out for Belosh. at that point. But I'm like equating it to movies and stuff that I like. But the thing is, it gives me that hero and antagonist look and view of the show itself and how they're portraying it. And I really enjoy that aspect, but it makes me think more of Harrow being, he is sinister in some way. I don't think he is as cool as he think he is.
So we're up to you.
Yep. My next one would be Steven and Layla working together, using the map to find Senfu's tomb with the map in the middle of the desert. So then Khonshu changing the stars for them to find it with Steven's help. He goes, I need your help. And he's as, Mr. Knight at that time.
Yeah.
And he's got to do the whole thing. And it looks like something out of like, oh, I'm using my iPad and I'm swooping. It'll get you dizzy. It was the last act before the Ennead imprisons him. And Steven helps with the act and dealing with that. And he's able to fold those papers for the map, which he got. I'm forgetting where he got them because
they came off the top of the tomb. They were on top of the tomb. They tore him off the tomb or the sarcophagus.
Oh, they actually did. Okay, that's right.
Yeah, off the sarcophagus before Harrow destroyed it. Because remember, Harrow shows that he has the power of Amet in his cane. Mm-hmm. In that he destroys the sarcophagus, but they already had the pieces of paper.
They already had it, and he taped it together like with duct tape and stuff, and was able to figure out the constellations, knowing exactly where it was, and they had to go back in time. And Khonshu even states, and that goes into my number one, where Khonshu just like basically he puts himself at risk, and that's when the Ennead wind up imprisoning him. So that's it for me.
Yeah, and that's kind of my final one as well. Is just the idea of getting. We already talked about a little bit, getting a lot more of Khonshu in this one with him having conversations, and actually he sees the value of Steven in that he has all this information about Egypt and about Egyptian mythology, and Steven's the one who says, "Well, we have to know what the night sky looked like that night when she was put into a tomb." And like you said, Khonshu then kind of sacrifices himself in a way so that they could, no, it's not in a way. He sacrificed himself in order for them to be able to find the tomb to try to stop Harrow. And of course, when we get to episode 4, we'll see where that goes with that. But, but yeah, I just love the fact that we get this idea that Steven actually does know a lot about the Egyptian stuff. He studied it, and so it was great to see that him actually having agency and input into what was happening, and not just being, and even the Mr. Knight character not just being comic relief in the fact that Khonshu had to use him. He had to have part of his power to do this massive thing. Mm-hmm. And I just, it was great.
Yeah.
You've kind of pulled me around on this episode a little bit, because I did really like the action. It did have those two great fight scenes. And so I don't know, maybe I need to give this episode another chance.
Yeah, just a little bit. How many times did you watch it?
I watched it, I thought 3 times. I think 3 times I actually watched it, and like 3.5 times. I think there was one time when I fell asleep because it was so late when I was watching it. And since we kept changing recording times and stuff, didn't know when we were going to record on it or if I was going to be able to record on it, so I kind of just watched it, I think 3 times, 3 full times that I can remember watching it. Because I wanted it to love the episode.
Yeah.
I just couldn't. But now that we've talked it through and seen that there is actually a lot of good stuff in this episode. So I'll have to give it another chance.
It's a good way to, where after everything's all said and done, when the show is wrapped up, to watch it as a full and just binge them 1 through 6. Just like Hawkeye. If you do that, you'll actually get a better feel for it. Same thing with Falcon and the Winter Soldier. A lot of people didn't like that, but, if you watch it completely, that'll be good.
I want to go back and rewatch WandaVision in a binge mode at some point.
Yeah, especially with Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness coming out. So we all want to go back and go and get that feel for it.
The only other note I have that we haven't discussed about episode 3, and of course we find out the confirmation of this in episode 4, is that by the end of episode 3, they were really leaning into the fact that Mark may have been the one who killed Layla's father.
Yeah, that was a questioning point, yeah. And I don't think that is. I think we kind of discussed it a little bit.
Right.
Where I think he was, like in the last, podcast we did, I think he was there and he was on his deathbed too. And it was just a way for Khonshu to take over because Mark was somebody who was able to be taken over for an avatar.
Well, no, we'll talk about it in episode 4 because in episode 4 they actually give he actually gives the explanation. So
to some degree, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So with that, we're going to take a break. And we're back. So with that, we're going to go into quotes. Do you have any quotes?
I don't have any quotes from episode 3.
All right. Well, I have 2.
Okay.
So the first one would be very funny. Khonshu saying, "I thought he'd talk." That's after Mark takes the Merc to the ledge, and the Merc cuts his scarf, and with the all praise Ahmet, and he goes down. And the last one I would have. No, actually, the next one I have 3. Khonshu saying, "Avatars are not enough." And this is during the Ennead scene. "Avatars are not enough. We need the might of gods. Return from the opulence of the overvoid before you lose this realm." Now, I think that's an MCU reference. And you guys could actually comment on that when we do this, when we post this on our Facebook page. So please do. If you guys have any information, please do. Because I think there's something there. What is the overvoid? So last one would be Steven saying, or no, it's Layla, actually. And "I don't steal. They've already been stolen. That's what people forget. I take them off the black market and return them to their rightful owners. I might keep a few to pay bills." And that just reminds me out of Indiana Jones, And the last one, obviously, Mark saying, "You had to kill him? I had to talk to him about a dig site." That's in the very beginning with the Mercs.
Right.
I thought it was kind of quirky and kind of like that petty Spider-Man thing of like, "Hey, hello, hi guys. Oh, I needed that guy." So
yeah, which is an interesting scene because if those guys were working for Harrow, why would they? I don't know. That scene was a little confusing to me.
It was
at the very beginning because who were they killing that knew about the dig site if they were all followers of Ahmet anyway? So it was a little confusing. But I we'll move past it.
All right. With that, we'll go right into notes.
Yeah, I already said mine.
You already got yours. All right,
yeah.
I got a few. So, with this, we actually confirmed that Layla is Egyptian because the last podcast I was questioning her accent because it sounded more American than anything. So we know that Layla is Egyptian, and we see that when she gets her new passport by the way of the secretary called Lagaro. And I'm just curious as to who this lady is and what role she plays within. Maybe Madripoor? Because there was talks on the boat with Mark and Layla, and it sounded to me like Layla was involved with Madripoor at one point.
That black market guy says that to her. Says the last time he saw her was in Madripoor.
Exactly. It makes me think that Layla was involved with some kind of sinister things at one point.
We just talked about that. Yeah, she takes stuff off the black market, so obviously she's involved with black market stuff. So that would be.
I'm thinking the worst end of it, not just like basic black market. I think gray area, which is the black market of her like with trading equipment and stuff, instead of like killing people.
Yeah.
But
okay.
That those are my thoughts because within Marvel there's some kind of gray areas that we go into within the comics. And I think they're actually delving more into that within the series too. Because obviously with Sharon Carter, she's really bad, as we know. Next up would be Khonshu is impulsive, as we already spoke about. The cane that Harrow has that he uses to weigh justice on people has the same purple glow, just like Agatha Harkness when we covered WandaVision. Did you realize that too?
I mean, it didn't. I didn't click in my head that it looked like the same. Purple,
it was the same purple glow, so I don't know if it's the same magics that's involved, but I'm curious to see if that comes to fruition. We have Khonshu and in prison, and what seems to be Mark and Steven without any powers from him at this point, which leads us into our discussion of episode 4, which would be cool.
Yeah. Was that all your notes?
That's all my notes. That's all I got.
Did we have some feedback for episode 3?
Yes, we did. So we got some audio feedback from Lara. And I'm going to share that now. And this is what Lara has to say.
Hey there, Mark and Steve. This is Lara, just calling in with a few hot takes after watching Moon Knight episode 3, The Friendly Type. Not sure if I'm going to get this in on time, but if I'm not, I guess I will see if I'm right when I eventually hear it.
You did.
Yeah, so one of the things that is becoming definitely clearer now is that there are indications of a third identity within Mark and Steven, because when he's on the rooftop fight with all of those guys, Mark asks Steven what the hell he's doing killing this guy, and obviously Steven has nothing to do with it, so there's someone else in there doing some of the dirty work that neither Mark nor Steven wants to do. And the show is starting to lead us in a way to think that maybe Mark killed Layla's father, because we learn in this episode that Layla's father is an archaeologist. He was killed. Mark has been accused of killing a few archaeologists execution style. So I'm thinking the show is trying to lead us to believe that Mark may have been guilty of killing Layla's father, but this is my hot take. I think that is a red herring. We see a lot in this episode that Steven is constantly trying to calm Mark down, to keep him from committing some of these violent acts. I'm wondering if Mark was involved somehow with Layla's father and he was sent to kill him. I wonder if Steven somehow stopped him and maybe someone else either killed Layla's father, or what if it's this third identity that we're starting to see hints of? I hope not, because that would cause a lot of complications in their relationship. My other wild theory is that it's generally thought with dissociative identity disorder that it's spawned from some sort of tragedy in your life, and Mark indicates in this episode that he kind of had his DID under control for a long time. So I'm just going to go right now with assuming that Mark was the original identity and some of these other ones came later, but he seems to have some issue with his mother. Steven is constantly trying to connect with his mother and can't get a hold of her. Mark apparently had some sort of falling out with his mother, according to Layla. So I'm wondering if his dissociative identity disorder spawned from something having to do with his mother. Just my guess from what they've told us so far. Otherwise, I am really, really enjoying this show. Episode 3 was probably the best one so far. I'm super excited and anxious to see the next episode. Hey, every time though they mention Layla, do you guys think of Derek and the Dominoes in the back of your mind? Are you kind of getting I just say it because our daughter's name is Layla, and I figure she's going to get that for the rest of her life. But hey, it's an awesome song. You could have worse ones associated with your name. Okay, guys, hope you had a fun week. I'll talk to you later.
Awesome.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Laura.
And yeah, I did think of when I heard the name Layla. That was the first thing that came to my mind.
Yeah. I love it. I think we talked about most of what she brought up already. But that's an interesting theory about where Mark's trauma may have come from and what may have happened. Of course,
family.
We know a little bit more now because we've seen episode 4. But yeah, so I'm it'll be interesting to see
Could
where
be
these
more underlining. Yeah, just like she was saying. Yeah. He could have been suffering all his life for all we know.
Or at least, for sure. I think it's been before this incident that he's had trouble with this. So
yeah. And that's why we have Steven. All right. So we're going to move on to episode 4 for Moon Knight, and it's called The Tomb. And the synopsis, Steve?
Mark and Steven must find balance as supernatural threats ahead look to stop them.
Yeah, and this one was, in my opinion, my thoughts, crazy.
Bonkers, yeah.
Bonkers, big time. I was waiting for Brendan Fraser to come in at one point, too, with some sort of mummy thing. And then at the very end, we get, some sort of psych ward thing, something out of 5 Monkeys. And
12 Monkeys?
Oh, 12 Monkeys. Sorry. What was that movie? 12 Monkeys. Yeah. Yes. But yeah, it gave me that feel too. And it was funny too because Layla was more of like what's his name? Brad Pitt.
Yeah.
The movie or the episode at this point. Oh, yeah. So I did enjoy this episode. It gave us some answers. We got to see a lot of key things, especially with Mark working with Steven at a certain point at the very end, which I really did enjoy too. He did get to work with them last episode when they were trying to get everything on the sarcophagus, and that's when Mark takes over and goes into full Merc mode. But in this case, it's more of them working together. I'm not going to say friends, but they worked out at the very end together, which I really did enjoy. So it shows that Mark is actually confident in dealing with Steven. So hopefully they could work together,
Yeah, I love this episode as well. I watched it twice. I only watched it twice. I was going to watch it a third time, and I think it's going to take multiple watches for us to fully realize all that was in there. Because, when Mark gets shot there at the end, I remember checking the time and seeing there's 16 minutes left. Where are they going to go from here? They've just shot Mark.
Exactly.
Harrow's just shot Mark in the chest. What are they going to do? And so it was really a cool, but it was a crazy ending that I'm still blown away. And I don't even know where we go from here. What's the next episode going to be?
Yeah, it's very much like, with Guns N' Roses. Where do we go? Where do we go now? I get the feeling too. But yeah, honestly, we're in a new realm at this point, and I think the last 2 episodes are going to be bonkers. I wouldn't be surprised if 5 is an average length episode and 6 is probably a little extended. Because what they planned on initially with a lot of these Disney Plus, episodes is just that they're about within an hour each. So they have 6 hours total. If you think about it, with Falcon and the Winter Soldier, it was total of 6 hours. So I wouldn't be surprised that the 6th episode is longer, but 5 we get something more, and grounded within the story and the characters.
Yeah, it was, like I said, it was one of the, it's hard to talk about this episode without focusing on those last 15 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
But I just love the action we got here. I loved we got the transitions that we got between Mark and Steven. We actually see them when they're outside of the psych ward. They kind of transitioning back. They've kind of come into this easy kind of flow, almost, where Steven realizes there's a point where, okay, I have to let Mark take over because I can't do this. You know, he says, it was this episode where he says something about muscle memory, or I should be able to do the things you do. But we just see that Steven's not going to be able to do it. And
we've seen that with Mr. Knight when he yelled at him last episode going, Mark, take over. Mark, take over.
Yeah, when he gets speared through the chest. Yeah. You know, we see Steven kiss Layla, and Mark kind of, again, the humor in this show, Mark punches him in the face for it, you know, and the whole thing about when they open the sarcophagus up and they got to figure out, so then Mark's got to transition back and let Steven take over the body to figure out, okay, where is the statue thing? Because that's another thing. You know, at the very beginning of the episode, we see the one god, I don't remember what his name was, go and take the statue of Khonshu and put it in this like cubby hole in the wall. And there's a whole, like, there was a lot, maybe not a whole bunch. There's like at least 7 or 8 other gods, other statues
that
in
weren't
those
accountable
holes.
for. Yeah. I saw that too.
So it's interesting to see that this is a method they've been using for a while to put in. They, unlike Ahmet, they put them in a place where, okay, it's going to be a period of time, and then maybe we'll have mercy and we'll release you from it at some point. But with Ahmet, whatever she did was so bad that they hid her from themselves and only had this one guy know the location of the tomb in case they changed their mind or they had mercy. So it's another one of those moments where when Steven's digging in and he's got to pull the mummy's skull apart. He's got to take the wrappings off and put his hand down the gullet and pull that thing out, that it's just like, and then we see Harrow arrive. And it was a great episode. And trying to think, it's hard without having notes in front of me, but it's great.
I still have my top 5 points, so
okay,
we'll move into that. First one for me would be Steven telling Layla about Khonshu's want for Layla to replace Mark as an avatar, and then the kiss that she gets. But I start to see Layla seeing Steven as a separate person finally now, than not something that Mark created as like a guy. She's starting to buy into the fact that, okay, Mark has 2 personalities and this is one of them. And she does appreciate it because it reminds her of her father in some way, because he's an archaeologist. And I just love the fact that Mark's jealous, you know?
Yeah, that's, like I said, that's really great when he punches him and he's like, you kissed her. And he's like, is it cheating? And I think even she kind of brings up the thought, like, is it cheating if...
No, it's not. It's the same thing. It's just different personality. You just... me, myself, and Irene with Jim Carrey, you know? They both like it. If you want to move into what I have next, too, the scene when the mummy or the protector of the tomb, I guess they're in charge of mummification at that point. He's there and he attacks everyone that comes in, but starts to put all their parts in the jars. And he tries to go after Layla and Steven. And I just love how we get that whole Brendan Fraser movie Mummy, where it's like attacking him and stuff like that, cutting the body and all that stuff. And then on top of that, his arm breaks off and he's going after Layla with the bones.
Exactly,
that was so sick. It shows that there is a reason why they have parental controls on these particular movies and shows.
Yeah.
So the whole scene during that way, it just gave me those Indiana Jones vibes as well as the Mummy. So I just love that, especially during her climb across the chasm. And then she had to claw her way. Basically National Treasure, Indiana Jones, Mummy, everything. It just gave me those vibes, and that's what I loved about it.
Yeah, I love, and that whole discussion she has with Harrow, a kind of across the chasm kind of thing, where she finally just turns her back on him, just says, I don't want to even deal with you, and I'm going to go find Steven, and she goes off is just really great.
Next one up for me, if you want to jump on that too.
Yeah, just go on with yours, because like I said, I don't actually have notes in front of me, so.
Well, the fact that we get Alexander the Great was in the tomb. So, according to history, he died of fever in Babylon. And I guess he made his way to Egypt at certain points, and they made him kind of a pharaoh himself. So, it's a differentiation of what's going on in our history that we know of. But the fact that Alexander the Great was the voice of Amit at this point too, and that's why Stephen had to go in, and then he realized, oh, he's the voice of Amit, and he had to break open, sorry, Mr. the Great, and breaks open the jaw and puts his hand, he goes, and then, of course, the cool thing is, I love how Mark was rooting on Stephen during it. Yeah, get it, guy, get it, dude. It's like, he got it, and you get the little statue. And he pulls it out.
That's an interesting thing. I want to research that and see if that's really a theory that some people have, that Alexander the Great may have been a pharaoh. But I love that thought of that confirmation that he sees the hieroglyphics on the pillar and he says, why is it Macedonian? And that's when he realizes that Macedonian mixed with Egypt with Egyptian means it's Alexander the Great. And I would have never even thought about that. That's a wonderful way the writers did to put some sort of a weird theory that I want to research and see if that's real.
Yeah, I'm just a huge Iron Maiden fan, and they actually have a song about Alexander the Great, so it's actually a historical song if you think about it. We will be putting that in our break music, so check that out too because it's pretty funny. I just love Iron Maiden, but they do historical things like Genghis Khan, things of that nature, but that's literally how I remembered it. And I was like, Macedonia. I was like, oh, Alexander the Great. And that was the first thing I thought. I was like, yes. And I was like, oh, wait. And I thought about it. And then as soon as that happened, it's like, oh, wait, he was an avatar for Amit. I was like, oh, darn. So, but it's pretty cool. Next up for me would be the asylum scene. So, we see Stephen in the asylum with all the white. It's completely white all around him. Everything is garbed in white. They're dressed in white. Everything. A lot of different colors of Jell-O that look like the Infinity Stones. I don't know if you caught that, but
no, I didn't. That's interesting. That's
pretty cool. We see the cupcakes from the truck as well. From what was it? Episode 1.
Yeah.
The Von D cupcake truck. So we see those cupcakes as well. Khonshu, somebody or a patient was drawing a bird and it looked just like Khonshu within the drawing. There's a goldfish bowl with a solidified goldfish. It's stationary, so obviously that's the goldfish missing the fin. And we see a Moon Knight action figure when Stephen drops it on the floor when the aide is trying to help him.
Yeah, Go ahead.
No.
Oh, I was just going to talk about the fact that we open up on that scene with you've transitioned into something different because you got the black bars on either side. And so we're not really sure, but then we hear the name Stephen Grant and we realize it's playing into that whole Indiana Jones thing like you talked about. You're Dr. Stephen Grant. You know everything about Aztec. And he says something about an Aztec god of the moon, lunar god. So I'm like, okay, so I see how they're kind of leaning into this whole thing. And then we find out that it's, what was the name of it? Tomb Buster or something like that was the name of the movie. And,
which is Indiana Jones and everything else. Yeah. And it makes me think that, all right, with everything that's going on there, and then, obviously Layla's there and gives me that Brad Pitt vibe from, what was the monkeys?
12 Monkeys.
12 Monkeys. I keep forgetting it.
It's okay.
That's why you're here.
And she's eating a marshmallow. Yep.
Like she did at, the person that was making.
Yep.
Yeah. Making her passport. And then we get to see Harrow there, and he is the therapist, and he's wearing those Crocs or sandals.
See, now, I don't think that was him. I think Stephen looked across and saw somebody wearing those sandals, but I think it was still Harrow in front of him. So I think I get what you're saying, that I don't think he was looking at Harrow. I think it was Harrow. Mm-hmm. But I think it was a different, I don't know. It was a weird way.
Do you think it might be another god that's like putting him in this world so that way it makes him think that he's crazy? Because a lot of the stuff was Egyptian within that office. If you look on the sides, there are shelves filled with statues and a lot of different elements of the god culture that was there. I really didn't have time to pause this. Sorry, guys. I only got to watch it twice. But if you guys have any information, it would be great if you submit that and just like prove us to something. But it's pretty cool.
The therapist asks him, you know, like, how many times did you tell me you've seen this movie? And so it's really one of those things where I hope they were, I don't know it's so crazy because we just don't know what's reality. Cause that even he says it's weird. And I noticed it at the second watch. He says, we live in a psychic, in a mental world, not a physical world. Mm-hmm. And so I think that it's like what you said. I think this is one of those gods has kind of put him into a separate world.
Exactly.
That's not reality. Mm-hmm. But yet he's got all these aspects of what's happening in reality is there. And so, yeah, it's these last 2 episodes are going to be crazy to see where it takes us and how we get out of it. And then of course, you know, he breaks into that one room and there's a sarcophagus that's laying down that he could hear Steven banging on. So he opens it up. He lets Steven out. And we have that wonderful, weird reunion where they're like, how is this happening? He's like, I don't know. But they hug each other like he said at the beginning, like
brothers.
They're friends. But as they're going through the halls, they stop at one room that has another sarcophagus that's standing up. Yeah, and it's shaking, and they just disregard it. They just move right on. And
meaning that there might be a third one.
That's what I'm thinking. I'm curious as to why they didn't stop and investigate that room, or if maybe we're going to get something of it
next episode.
Yeah, in the next episode of who's in that sarcophagus. You know?
Because where we're left off goes to my number 1 or my last fact. The fact that both Steven and Mark are working together, which you brought up, which is amazing, in the asylum, and they walk past that one particular sarcophagus. But we get Terawet at the very end.
No, that's Amet. That's Amet, the crocodile-headed god. The female crocodile head, that's Amet. At the end?
No, it's a hippopotamus.
Oh, was it a hippopotamus? I thought it was a crocodile head.
That was a hippopotamus. That's Terawet.
Oh, okay.
Which is a different god. I think it's meant for prosperity and, you know, with children and everything else. So I don't know if she shows up just to say, hey, I'm here to ease your mind. Hello, hi.
Yeah. Yeah, that high-pitched girly voice of, hi, you know.
Yeah.
And they just scream. And I love, you know, it's another thing. We talked about Oscar Isaac and how well he plays these 2 characters. Their screams are very distinctive of
yes.
Mark has this very guttural and deep kind of
Steven
yell.
has like more feminine scream.
Yeah, more of a high pitched kind of scared kind of scream. That's really cool to close the episode out with. And as I think it was mentioned on one of the other podcasts that I listened to, that first shot we get when the credits start of the moon has been slowly changing every episode to where in this episode 4, it's a half moon, or it's even a little bit past the halfway mark a little bit.
Meaning his powers might be half that way.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I mean, I think it's just indicating the transition of the episodes, but it could be because I know they mentioned again that I guess there was one run of the comics from the 90s or something where his powers did like kind of wax and wane with the phase.
Yeah,
of
if
the
it was
moon.
like a slight sliver, quarter of a moon, he didn't have his full power, but he was able to do stuff. And then by the time he get to the half moon, he has half his power, 3/4, and then a full moon. And a lot of people are speculating whether or not he has 4 personalities at this point, and one of them being Khonshu, the other one Jake Lotley as well, so that way he has a full 4. And we won't know until we see the very last episode of this particular show, and then we'll get into the movie aspect of him making cameos because, obviously with Netflix integrating both Kingpin and Daredevil and hopefully eventually Punisher and Jessica Jones and all that cool stuff, we'll get more of Moon Knight. And then hopefully, we'll have this whole new era of dark characters or dark heroes as we know, because we're going to eventually get Blade too. All right. Well, right now we're going to take a break because we talked a lot. And we're going to leave you with this. back. So, right now we're going to move on to quotes. I don't think you have any, right, Steve?
All I had was I already said it was that hi. Hi.
From Terraway, yeah. The only one I have would be Steven saying, this is him to Mark as he's leaving because he's seeing him in the mirror as he's walking back because it was Mark confronting him about kissing Layla, or Steven kissing Layla, saying, and Steve goes, if I need a recipe for a protein shake, I'll call you. See ya. Do you have any notes?
I don't. That's all I got.
All right. Layla's coming to terms with their multiple personalities now within that one particular vessel. I find that intriguing because within the course of the past 2 episodes, she was skeptical at first in the very beginning, and now has come to terms and has accepted Steven and Mark as being one particular person, but has 2 personalities. So I find that very cool. We haven't seen the other personality, Mark and Steven, so we've already talked about this a little bit, but, you said people are talking about it on TV podcast. TV podcast industries were talking about how it could possibly be Khonshu, but a lot of people are also saying that it might be Jake Lotley.
Mm-hmm. We talked about this a bit. Yeah.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And then Harrow to Layla saying, I read his scales and the scales do not lie. And that's about Mark. Plus the fact that Harrow states that Mark is in a lot of pain. So that's a good thought about that too, because it seems like he's been in distress most of his life. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think that's really what is tipping the scales. But who knows what Ahmet knows, because they just kill willy-nilly. They'll kill an old lady in the middle of nowhere. And, just because they had a bad thought or something. So it sounds to me that there's something more involved with Ahmet as well as Harrow himself. I think he's reading in and just deciding himself to get what he wants, which is power. But those are my thoughts. And, well, we didn't have any feedback from what I could tell. I didn't
see any for episode 4. So.
I didn't get any email. I didn't get any voicemail from Lyra or anybody. So if you guys really want to, obviously send that feedback. Where are we on to next?
News.
Well, I have some news. So HBO Max cast already KJ Apa and Isabel May as the Wonder Twins for the DC property they have acquired now. So HBO Max is going to put out a live-action Wonder Twins show, which is pretty cool. And I look forward to seeing that because I always liked that when I was a kid, when it came on Saturday mornings. Next up would be, or the last one, Elliot Page is going to be playing Victor Hargreaves in Season 3 of The Umbrella Academy. So we're going to have our first LGBTQ plus character within the Umbrella Academy. I'm curious to see what they do with Vanya, though. I'm hoping they actually show the transition and whatever, because the last time we actually saw it, and I don't know if you guys saw the last season of Umbrella Academy like I have. I've been rewatching it, with anticipation, and it leaves us off with the Umbrella Academy. And spoilers, if you haven't, just skip ahead. Basically, the Umbrella Academy, after they fixed everything that they needed to do in the 60s, they come back to present time or where they were when they initially left. And it's not the Umbrella Academy, it's the Sparrow Academy. So, yeah, they have to deal with their father, but Vanya was there with them. So I'm curious to how they changed that within the continuity of the show.
I read something about this. They're going to address it somehow, but I'm not sure how they're going to address it.
Yeah, it'd be interesting because that'll be coming up soon. We'll be covering that as well as Invincible. So I hope you guys are looking forward to that because Jamie and I are going to be covering that as well. So we got a lot of stuff coming up too, especially with Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness that's going to be dropping in the very beginning of May.
Yeah, that's exciting. I'm excited for that one. So
same here.
The only thing I got is the teaser trailer for Thor: Love and Thunder dropped this week.
Awesome.
And it was really, really cool. I watched it a couple of times and looks like that's going to be an amazing movie. And I can't wait to see where they go with those characters.
Yeah, same here. I guess we'll move on to podcast recommendations?
Podcast recommendations, yeah. The only thing I've got is there's a podcast called Smartless. It's with Will Arnett, Jason Bateman, and Sean Hayes. They do different guests where they bring in and interview them and talk to them. And last week they had David Spade on there, and it was just a hilarious podcast. David Spade is still just hilarious. They talked about his days in SNL and all the things he used to do, the Hollywood Minute, which I always loved when he would do Hollywood Minute, and he would just roast for 60 seconds all sorts of different celebrities and stars. And he brought up the one moment in Hollywood Minute that I still to this day remember watching. It was when he made fun of downtown Julie Brown, who had just left MTV, and he said, "Wubba, wubba, wubba, her career's in trouble, trouble, trouble." So just a hilarious moment for him, and some other. It's just a hilarious podcast. So if you check out Smartless with Will Arnett, Jason Bateman, and Sean Hayes.
Awesome. Next up would be, for me, I have two. So basically, if you want to check out a really cool new podcast that's up, Rob's been on before. My friend Rob Moda has a podcast called Fantasy Picks Movie Edition, and they have a few more episodes out, so I highly recommend you check that out. They're going to be doing a top 5, a lot of things, like actors, movies, things of that nature. Sounds very familiar to me, but he decided this on his own, but check that out, and that's Fantasy Picks Movie Edition. Next up would be Truest Blood with Kristen Bauer and Deborah Ann Wall as they continue their coverage of every episode of True Blood, which I've been keeping up with, which is awesome too, because I've been doing the rewatches as they've been doing the podcast, and I had to go back to that because I haven't seen that show in a long time. YouTube recommendations, The Grim Life Collective and their pursuit of doing everything unusual. So you could actually track them down. Just go to youtube.com and search for The Grim Life Collective, as well as Malfunction, Sean Clark, who is the liaison to the stars for our conventions that we go to. Like at Fandemic Tour, I got to see Sean from a distance and say hi. But he has a lot of cool movie collections, and he just posted one recently from John Carpenter's The Fog that he was able to get from Tommy Lee Wallace, which is pretty cool. So I highly recommend that. And how could people submit their feedback?
Well, obviously, we can be heard on your podcast player of choice, whether it's Spotify, Google Play, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcast. We would love it if you would give us a review on there. We'll give you a shout out right here on the podcast. That's one way to interact with us, word of mouth. You can check out our website, panels2pixelspodcast.com. That's panels2pixelspodcast, all spelled out in letters.com. We also have a Facebook group, which is really probably the best way that you can interact with us is on facebook.com/panels2pixels. That's panels2pixels, all spelled out in words. We are on Twitter at panels2pixels. That's at panels, the number 2, and then pixels.
And you can email us at panels2pixels1@gmail.com. Panels, 2 is spelled T-O, pixels, and the number 1@gmail.com. There you could just send out a regular texted email if you want, and we'll read it on the podcast. Or if you want, you could just send or record yourself, attach it to the email, and then we'll play it, and we'll, just like we did with Lara.
We are on YouTube, Panels 2 Pixels Podcast. Go on there. You can subscribe. Give us a thumbs up. Again, that's Panels 2 Pixels Podcast on YouTube.
Awesome.
We're also on Instagram at Panels 2 Pixels Podcast. That's Panels 2 Pixels Podcast, all spelled out in letters.
I forgot if you actually mentioned that already.
That's all right.
Well, we wanted you to check out all the other podcasts on the Next Level Podcast Network. We highly recommend them all. Wilhelm with Ben Beck himself, The Melting Pot, Podcast Zero, and so much more. So just go to the nextlevelradioonline.com webpage, and you could see all the other podcasts that are there on the Next Level Radio Online Podcast Network.
Very, very cool. Coming up next week, we will be covering the penultimate episode of the miniseries Moon Knight, entitled, we don't know what the title is yet. So come back next week to hear us talk about episode 5.
Awesome. And where else can listeners hear us? Steve?
Well, I submit voicemails to various podcasts that I follow. I've been, as mentioned earlier in the podcast, we've had some hiccups. I've had some life transition things happen over the last few weeks, so I haven't been able to keep up with it as much as I'd like to, but I send voicemails to our friends' podcasts. And then, of course, you can hear me right here on Panels to Pixels.
Exactly. And you could also hear me on my other podcast, which is Adrenaline Cinema Podcast, and you can find that on the Pirate Core Entertainment Network, and that's piratecoreentertainment.com. And you can find all the feeds on there for all the other podcasts that are on the actual Pirate Core Entertainment Network, which would be Run for Your Lives, obviously Adrenaline Cinema Podcast, and Watched It in the 80s. After you hear this, you could probably just rush on over, and if you want to go to Adrenaline Cinema Podcast and find that on your feed, you could actually find, finally, we recorded it back in February, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom with my friend Megan. I finally edited it, and it was pretty cool. We had a good time doing that. Next up for Adrenaline Cinema Podcast, look forward to the next in the Apes series, the Planet of the Apes series, with Jerry and myself. And the Angry Red Planet, probably too, as well with Jerry, and Army of Darkness. I don't know which order they're going to come in, but check it out if you're interested in those. So we did cover Army of Darkness already, which is a Sam Raimi staple, and from the Evil Dead trilogy, which Jamie and Damien had already started on Watched It in the 80s. So since it was in the 90s, I took hold of it, and we did it on Adrenaline Cinema Podcast. So you get 3 people talking about Army of Darkness. But you can check out the other podcasts when they come out as well.
Nice.
Awesome. So with that, that is our show. And we just want to thank everyone for listening. I'm Mark.
And I'm Steve.
And this was Panels to Pixels. And we will see you on the next panel. Good night, everybody.
Good night.